Hey guys, welcome back to Selene. So, I do have the 18 plus DLC because someone finally gave it to me. Thank you. By the way, I'll be doing all the new lines for this game very soon, probably in the upcoming weeks to months, so keep an eye out. So, I'm trying to decide if I want to do a run and then do an adult run, or start from the beginning. Chat, you get to decide. And by chat, I mean those on YouTube and other places. So there'll probably be a restart at some point. Like right now. Because I torture people. Yes. Welcome back. The sound was driving him crazy. Nah, I'm not gonna do that. I am going to do a second run with the adult stuff. I don't know when. Actually, I will save the second run for when my voice clips are done. So, you guys get to see the before and after. When the door shut behind Hope, Ethan called Laura. Hope found Laura a long time ago. Seemed like Laura helped her a lot. At least that's what Hope said herself. Ethan didn't know any details, nor wanted to, since Hope hadn't told him. After all, psychotherapy is a very personal matter. So personal that Ethan felt as if he was standing naked in the middle of a busy street when he had to describe what was happening to him. Apparently, one can get used to this too, as by the middle of the story, he was sparing no details. To Ethan's surprise, when he mentioned the disturbing emails from his contact that were kind of getting on his nerves, Laura perked up. You're saying you have recently become quite close to your acquaintance. You would emphasize and try to help him, right? Well, yes. Something like that. And your contact letters contain vivid, disturbing imagery, yes? Imagery that evoked a certain response from you, is that right? You could say that. He's a writer after all. Vivid images are his livelihood. Do you know what induced delusion disorder is, Mr. Harrison? Ethan tried to recall. He definitely read about it, but didn't look into it too much for details. Is that the thing that explains mass insanity? Like that dancing plague of 1518, Strasbourg? That's a thing? I need to look that up later. That's right. The disorder is called folie à deux, or madness of two. I probably said that wrong. Sounds romantic, doesn't it? Laura giggled. Ethan thought herself was not all too sane. Of course she wasn't. She has to deal with the guys that like me all the time. But Laura had already returned to her usual tone, calm and measured. This condition causes perfectly healthy people to experience various, let's say, negative effects. It works like this. We have a source of delirium, and those two who perceive it, one or more people. As you correctly noted, sometimes this disorder can take on a truly massive scale. There is usually an emotional connection between the victims of this condition. Your wife is also at risk, unfortunately. Laura paused. I can't make a diagnosis. I can't make a diagnosis. What the fuck? I can't make a diagnosis in such a format, Mr. Harrison. However, I think you need to limit contact with your acquaintance, at least for the time being. He might be the source of the unpleasant state you are experiencing. Would you like to make an appointment for a consultation? By the way, I want to state right now, Haji and Nayu? God, if I said your names wrong, I'm sorry. You two are some of the sweetest people I've ever worked with. If you guys haven't played Flat Chest's other games, please go and support their stuff. Them, Team Toffer, a lot of the devs for these games are so sweet and kind. Ethan politely declined. And go support them and me on Patreon. Support me on Patreon. Support them, but through buying the game. You know, the DLC stuff. The art book's pretty. Laura listened to the rest of what he had to say and choked off screen. She asked what pills Ethan was taking. Ethan wasn't taking any except aspirin because he had a lot of headaches lately. She advised him to reduce the workload, follow the daily routine, and take light sedatives if necessary. Something herbal, maybe. Without meeting in person, there wasn't much Laura could offer, and Ethan had no energy, time, or money to start a full-on therapy, as Hope called it. Ethan thanked Laura with all of his heart, finished the call, stretched, and took a deep breath that made his ribs ache. Then he smiled. Though no full-on therapy was involved, this conversation still made Ethan feel much better. A reality made sense again, and nothing out of the ordinary was happening. Boy, did you just open Pandora's box. Nothing he couldn't handle. He stretched again and was about to go for another cup of coffee when his breath, the steady deep breath of a man who's in control, caught in his throat. Ethan felt the small hairs on his neck standing up. Someone was looking at the back of his head. Ethan turned around slowly. Don't worry, it's just me, Ethan, it's fine. I'm calling the police. Ethan spoke each word loud and clear. It was a decent plan. An actually decent one. And it certainly wasn't funny in any way. And yet the girl sitting on the windowsill was silently laughing, covering white teeth with her hand. The girl from the supermarket. The girl from the dream. She was still wearing the light white dress, even though in the morning the temperature dropped to 53 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was going to rain. One of the straps fell down to the side, but the girl was in no hurry to put it back. She swung her crossed legs a little, looking at Ethan from under her brow, with the smile of a child who had a hilarious mischief in mind. Did I say something funny? The girl quickly raised her eyes, shrugged slightly, still holding back a smile. Just as before, she did not make a sound. Ethan even assumed she could be mute, but decided to make one last attempt. Just one question, then he calls the cops. Get the f*** out of here. How did you get in here? The girl put her lean finger with a neat black nail to her lips, while the fingers of her other hand shaped the figure of a man. She pointed to the figure with her eyes. Ethan felt sick of the farce that was happening. He thought he should call the cops immediately. The hand clutching the phone continued to hang limply. The finger man looked around, started walking along the window slope with his finger legs. 1, 2, 3. Then something else happened, and Ethan failed to understand what it was. The next moment, the finger man was walking on the sill, and the girl was making it with her other hand. Then she smiled widely and put both palms on her chest. She looked absolutely happy.
I was invited!
Suddenly, she cast a gloomy look at Ethan. Her black eyes gave a cold simmer.
It's really rude to come in without an invitation.
A moment later, the girl reached for something behind her back, quickly pulled it to her lips, and took a sip. Ethan's throat became tight with blood that abruptly rushed to his head. What? How'd you get this? The girl traced Ethan's gesture with a genuinely surprised look, and the next moment she parted her fingers. Hope's huge, colorful cup, with the one they had just got at the store, tinkled hurtfully as it struck the floor, and then shattered to pieces. Just like that, there was a brief moment when the cup was laying peacefully on the floor. Ethan got enough time to hope it would endure the fall. And then the fragments burst everywhere at once, as the furious white light broke out from the inside. But no, that was milk. Just some milk.
You shouldn't have spooked me, you know. Now look at what you've done. The poor cup is so broken. So many eeny-meeny tiny pieces. There's no way to mend it at all.
Ethan was suffocating. What the hell are you doing here? What do you want from me? The girl bit her lip and twisted a fallen shoulder strap between fingers. The top of the dress slid even lower.
Do you want me to leave? But I may run into Hope. Right at the door, even. She forgot her pass and will be here any minute. What will the poor girl think?
The girl looked over her shoulder, and her face instantly lit up.
It's her! Here she is! Hope is simply amazing, accurate to a minute. Hello!
The girl turned over on her stomach, leaned on the sill, and waved vigorously to someone invisible. Her dress completely slid down. That bitch! Ethan would bet her tits are flashing right through the window. Don't come any closer. Hold on. So either way, I think we're screwed here. She will stop right now. He will force some sense into her. Ethan rushed to the window. He was going to grab the girl's arm and drag her deeper into the room. Maybe he would have clenched her shoulder much harder than necessary. Maybe he would have given her a hearty shake before releasing her. But even in a state of frenzied rage, he did not intend to push her. Let the police handle it. It's their job after all. Moreover, he wasn't going to get on top of her with his whole body pressing against the glass. But he did just that. Ethan failed to see how this happened. It was as if someone rolled the clock forward and, in the missing stretch of time, replaced the thing he intended to do. All he knew was his right hand already crushed the naked boob of the damned bitch, and his left is properly against the glass. You know what? I think the other one's a lot better. We're still screwed either way. Ethan couldn't see, but he knew, he felt that Hope was really standing down there, and she was looking at the window, of course, although she couldn't see much anymore, as a blurry veil covered her eyes. The girl slowly turned around and stared at him with her eyes wide open without blinking. Her shoulders shook as if she was going to cry, but she was laughing. At first, it was a couple of stifled laughs. Then it became a laughter of someone who just heard a great joke and gradually turned into a wild barking screams. He has to stop it. Right now. Ethan wanted to rush to the window, but took just one step and froze in place. The girl must be out of her mind. She's stoned or worse. She might have a syringe if he doesn't want it, and he doesn't want any more problems. He only wants things to remove. He only wants this thing removed from his windowsill, welled in a steel box and dumped somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. He still had his phone in his hand. 911, what's the address of your emergency? The bitch shrank, clenched, but kept cackling like a pack of coyotes, yelping on a moonlit night. She was withering with laughter, and the pale rags of dry, flabby skin was shaking in rhythm of her movements, her dress looking like a death shroud. He suddenly thought she was much older than he thought at first. What is going on? Ethan looked at her for the last time, a mixture of hate and disgust in his eyes, and turned away, running his fingers through his hair. There's a stranger in my apartment. A woman, most likely on drugs or just insane. Can you see her right now? Ethan could see only the wall in front of him, but he heard the deafening howl. It was echoing throughout his skull, beating into his temporal bones like a desperate bird. Ethan clenched his teeth. Yes. Does she have a weapon? Maybe. She threatened me. Can you leave the apartment? No. This scum can escape and I don't want her to get... Ethan hesitated. I can't hear you, sir. What is happening? Speak up. I can't hear you. What is happening? The terrifying laughter kept echoing in Ethan's ears. Congratulations, you had the insane one. There was no one behind him. He approached the window slowly, as if it was happening in a dream. The shards of Hope's cup crunched under his feet. Just like before, the window was closed. Ethan opened it and carefully looked down. He did not see the body, too good to be true, but he had to check. Only the gray pavement, which gradually turned black as it actually started raining. Ethan looked across the street, just in time to notice a familiar cream-colored coat disappearing behind the corner of a nearby house. Hope? Hope! He screamed so loud that something snapped in his throat, but she didn't hear him. Or maybe she didn't want to hear him. Ethan called her at least 100 times. Hope didn't answer. Ethan thought he could come to her office, but eventually decided it would only make things worse. The police were in his apartment 23 minutes, 40 seconds later. They didn't find any signs of forced entry, and the call record was, as Ethan found out, had nothing that resembled laughter or howling. No extraneous sounds, as the officer said. Hope returned sometime between late at night and early in the morning. The skin on her cheekbones was taut and almost transparent, and there were deep shadows under her eyes as if she hadn't slept in a long time. She smelled of strong alcohol. Ethan went out of the dark room to her. He didn't sleep and didn't turn on the light either. Things that lurked in the dark, real or imagined, no longer frightened him. He even wished that something he had been dreading from the past month, he finally could name the feeling he had, would come out of the greasy blackness of the shadows and snap his neck. But everything in the apartment was mockingly calm, except for Ethan himself. Hope? Hope stared at him in silence, swaying a little. Instead of pupils, she had dark holes. I've been thinking a lot about what I would say to you if you came back. What can I say? Hope's face showed no emotion. It seemed like she didn't even blink. Anyway, I realized that I can only tell the truth, no matter how crazy it sounds. If I try to cheat, it only gets worse, right? Ethan gave a short, nervous laugh. Anyway, Ethan had plenty of time to think about what he was going to say, but he still didn't know where to start. Some time ago, I don't remember exactly, I started seeing a girl.
Who is she, Ethan?
I don't know.
Is it Sophie?
Who?
Sophie Wolf, your student from that online course?
Hope made a vague gesture with her hand. Movies from the late Victorian era. Ethan didn't know why he said that, but Hope obediently repeated it in a flat voice.
I remember you were impressed with her. You always liked smart girls, and this one was also beautiful.
Hope, this isn't what you think.
Think. Who says I think? Thinking's too painful.
Wait, hold on. Ethan disappeared into the room and came back a few minutes later. The darkness of the hallway was diluted by the light of the screen. Hope covered her eyes with her hand, either from the brightness of the screen itself or because she didn't want to see whatever there was.
What is it all about?
Here, look. It's Sophie Wolf. On the screen, in fact, was a profile of Sophie Wolf, a student. In the photo, Sophie was squinting, either from the bright sun or because her crudely red hair was getting in her eyes. A small brown-haired girl snuggled up to her with a shy smile. They're a nice couple. If I remember right, they had a wedding this year.
Then, who is?
I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I just want her out of my life, but this bitch follows me. Well, she used to follow. Now I don't think I'll ever see her again.
Is it good or bad?
Oh, please. If you want to leave, I'll understand. But if you're willing to give me a second chance, I promise I'll do my best to mend it all. He couldn't really promise, but he was too eager for the nightmare, real or imagined, to finally end. No more weird stories. Please, Hope. I don't need anyone but you. If you can get... He couldn't finish because Hope kissed him. Her bag hit the floor with a thud. The rest of the night actually went fine. Well, even more than that, except for the fact they were too busy to get any sleep. The fuck, man? At least everything was going okay until moments when, instead of Hope's face, just for a moment, Ethan saw. He couldn't tell her. He mumbled something about not feeling well and collapsed on his back, panting. He closed his eyes so that Hope couldn't accidentally catch a glimpse of what he saw. Nothing happened. It wasn't real. I'm gonna check something real quick. Okay. It's fine. She'll understand, said Hope. Let's see. Where's Timo? Look, let's look for him together. Maybe he's up the tree chasing the birds. No, I can't see him. Maybe he's in the reeds watching the fish. No, and no. Let's look some more. Maybe he's on the roadside under the blue plastic bag. He's not there. 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 I'm not going to keep doing that. The conditions of love. What have you done? I want to save you. I wanted to save us both. You fool. That's right. But I can't just lose you. It's too late. It's never too late as long as we have each other. Oh, Elijah. The conditions of love. I don't know, I like the first season better. Melodrama, explore the mysteriously unsolved. Haven't gotten any of those yet. The concave muzzle of Persian cat stared back at him. All that was required of Ethan, he had to call the cattery. A simple task, but Ethan hesitated. It was hard for him to get used to the idea of one of those pop-eyed creatures walking around his apartment. During the day, it'll nap where it pleases, and at night, sneak into the kitchen to play with the shadows that move by themselves. And its eyes will turn to two saucers of black and green nacre if the light reaches them. Ancient people believed cats would walk between worlds and see spirits. Looking at Persians, Ethan hardly believed they could even breathe on their own. And yet, in this Ethan Harris from 21st century agreed with the ancient people. There was something sinister about them. Cats weren't considered sinister in a lot of places. In any case, he should call the cattery. For Hope's sake. For the sake of them both. He had made the decision. Ethan had already picked up the phone and was about to proceed with the plan when he heard the key turn in the entrance. Something about that wound him up. It was briefly 5 o'clock in the evening, which was, in any way, very early for Hope to come back. If everything was fine, that is. Ethan closed his laptop and went out into the hallway. For a long time, he couldn't say a single word, and when he could speak again, he only managed one question. "What have you done?" Hope's smile faded, and for the first time in 4.5 or even 5 years, they'd been a couple. Ethan was glad of it. "I got another cat." In fact, there was nothing surprising about it. As with the new haircut and the new hair color, Hope looked unbearably, insanely similar to that creature at the window. Hope's lips turned white, trembling.
This didn't help, did it? Any of it? You can't love me even now, right?
What are you talking about?
Isn't it obvious? I see how you look at me. You're disgusted. You try your best to touch me as little as possible. And no matter what I do, no matter what I try, it doesn't help.
Admit it. You never loved her. You didn't, right, Ethan? She was convenient, and that's about it.
I have no idea if I did those lines or not.
Shit makes the flowers grow. Your flowers grew so much, didn't they, Ethan?
Ethan never hit his wife. More than that, he would never hit a woman. But what spoke to him was neither his wife nor a woman. It was a nightmare incarnate that bared its long, sharp teeth and came to take away his right for a second chance. Or so Ethan thought at the time. The punch turned out somewhat pathetic. But you have to take into account that wife-beating is not a fair-ground attraction. When you hit your wife properly, a mark does not fly up to the highlighted sign, "A good one!" Although this was only indirectly related to the early Renaissance, Ethan had expertise in the matter, since his old man's fist used to itch often. If there was something like that, he would know. However, any sign could light up at the moment. It would say something like, "You're scum, Ethan." No! He kept repeating that even after Hope stormed out the door in tears. Ethan barely remembered the following few days. Something seemed to be happening. Some people called. He himself called a lot. He called Hope. Hope wasn't answering the phone. He knew this would happen. Every time he dialed her number, he knew he'll end up listening to the voicemail signal. It became something of a ritual. He would wake up. Sometimes it was light outside, sometimes dark, but more often it was something gray he neither could nor would want to identify because of the drawn curtains. He called Hope. Hope wouldn't answer the phone. He would go to the kitchen and turn on the water. He watched the silvery twisted stream break against the sink for a while. Eventually, he'd put up a cup under the water, fill it to the brim, drink, go to the bathroom, back to the couch. It's too bad to be true. All of this can't be real. Life can't crumble into pieces in just an instant. Just collapse inwards like a wooden block tower. Ethan couldn't remember the name of that game. Once he and Hope went to sea. He and Hope. It's too bad. All of this wasn't real. He didn't do anything. Could it be that he didn't do anything? No. He hit Hope. He hit her and a red blot spread across her cheek. It was too dark to see, but Ethan knew how it goes. How could he do that? What happens now? What can happen now? Those thoughts were like a bunch of needles he tried to swallow over and over. Sometimes he managed to briefly forget about them. It would happen when he woke up in the grayless timelessness, looking at the dirty white ceiling. Didn't remember who Ethan Harrison was. The pain would always come back. He had a bunch of needles in his throat, and no matter how much water he drank, he couldn't get rid of it. Hope's father shook him up a bit. Not in a sense he could have done it, grabbing a hold of him, lifting him off the ground. Hope's father was a tough man, and despite his age, he could have hit Ethan hard. Ethan was afraid of it, and at the same time, he wanted it to happen. That would have made it easier. Maybe even fix it all. Ethan was going over it in his head as he stared at the phone screen displaying a familiar number. He was awfully scared, yet he answered. It turned out Hope had asked her father to pack up for her. Mr. Merlell's voice was flat, even a bit uncertain. And worst of all, he wasn't angry. This plunged Ethan into despair. He couldn't get his redemption like this. However, the upcoming visit forced Ethan to gain his senses. It showed him back into reality, like a stream of people pushing one into a crowded subway train. Get in there. He tidied up the place a bit. He shaved. He figured out what to say. Several times he rehearsed his speech in front of the mirror. And just before Mr. Merlez arrived, Ethan left the keys with the neighbors. Simply put, he fled. Of course, he warned Mr. Merlez beforehand with a message because he didn't have the heart to call. Ethan wanted Mr. Merlez to pick up what he had to and get out as soon as possible. Mr. Merlez wasn't going to help, that's for sure. He wasn't going to help, which meant he simply got between Ethan and his wife. Ethan was angry with Mr. Merlez, like he was the source of all the trouble. Anger was boiling up inside, mixing with cheap coffee and turning into caustic acid. There was nothing rational about this feeling. Ethan had plenty of time to think about it, to weigh it, to examine it under the magnifying glass. He was sitting in a small cafe on the corner of the street until the streets got dark. He could have stayed there even longer if the waiter hadn't come on his table to tell the place was closing. Ethan nodded absently and asked for a moment to use the bathroom. Again, there was nothing rational about being angry with Mr. Merlez. And yet, to be honest, it was pathetic. Just like hitting your wife and then running away not to face her father. You're scum, Ethan. Worthless scum. Ethan turned off the tap and stared at his reflection in the large mirror. A few drops of water trembled on the tip of his nose and chin. Now that was a proper punch. Sir, I'm sorry, but Sir? Are you okay? You have... Blood oozed from his split lip. Ethan wiped it with the back of his hand. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep you. He smiled. A fresh wound got swollen with blood again. The red spot spread across his face, just as it should. He's insane. Ethan didn't lie to the waiter, but let's find out. April 24th. Nobody came to my birthday party except for my friends and Timo. Mom said I'll get real friends when I'm older. My friends are real, but still, I'd love to have someone to hang out with. I'll just have to wait a bit for a bit, I guess. Next TV program. The Secrets of Anatomy. X. Exhibit 1. Exhibit 2. Exhibit 3. Exhibit 4. Ripe specimen. The screaming man is hiding here. Ductus nasalimius. What? Happy Dreamland. Mary is a lamb. Johnny is a tree. And who's a little liar? Hayajalai. What? Drugs are bad, MK. So it looks like we're covering this up. I do want to see all the different ones, so I might have to ask how to unlock them. So with that, we're going to leave it. What? Oh, that's weird. You had 2 different ones. So I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to check out the game. It is free right now on Steam, which is awesome. You can get the DLC for the 18+, plus the art book. You can also check out all the links in the description if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching other places, come check me out on YouTube under Sinfully Fun Gaming. Or Purity Sin Gaming, where this video is. Thank you guys. Bye.